things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever home. Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner, is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson with Reality Shifters and the International Mandela Effect Conference, and you're now listening to Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Hello. Introducing
Lasers.
Hello.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light, and you're now listening to Dark Wolf's Den.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation. Don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness, this is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we are broadcasting live worldwide from a secret cave hidden high up in the beautifully snow-covered peaks of the Idaho mountains, ripping through the electromagnetic soup, tearing through the atmosphere, and tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are discussing O.B.Es, or outer body experiences. What are they? Are they real? Are they possible? There's a lot of evidence to suggest on both sides. What does neuroscience and dogmatic scientism say about it? And what other truths can be found? All that and more coming up here in just a moment, but first... Today in History. On this day in 1930, the very first Mickey Mouse comic strip ran in a newspaper. Of course, the animated Steamboat Willie had already been done in 1928, but this was the first comic strip of Mickey Mouse to run in a newspaper, and that is today's Today in History. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 90 years ago today, the Mickey Mouse comic strip first come out. How incredible is that? Incredible as maybe having an out-of-body experience, right? I've never personally had one, I'll be honest with you, but I've heard a lot of people talk about them, and I've read a lot of case files to do with out-of-body experiences, and it connects back to what we were talking about last week and the hard problem of consciousness, because nobody can really define consciousness. Nobody knows where it's at, how it's formed, what it does. There are scientism theories, I would say scientific theories, but let's be honest, dogmatic scientism isn't real science. And there is some neuroscience behind it, but still even they can't explain why unconscious matter could create consciousness, let alone an out-of-body experience, which does suggest that consciousness is literally in a field all around us. It is non-local, or not just in your brain. And I think most of us listening to the show could probably agree with that premise. Go ahead and put a 1 if you don't think consciousness is only a byproduct of the brain. Put a 2 if you think that's exactly what consciousness is. It's created by the brain. And put a 3 if you're just really unsure of the question, because I gotta say, I'm a 1 on this, but I could see being a 3 because for a long time I was. But yes, I truly believe consciousness is definitely not a byproduct of the brain. And it really comes into question of reality itself, right? And how perception is really the reality that we know. And I brought up last week that to a person that is hallucinating, say seeing a dragon for instance, to them that dragon is just as real as my voice coming to your ears right now. To them, they're going to have the physiological experiences. Their heart rate's going to go up. They're going to be scared. They're going to think they're looking at a real dragon. And I could only imagine what that would be like, but to their perception, that's just as real as I am right now.
Is the reality we live in the actual reality? But what is reality? Could we say it is what we detect with our senses or with the help of technology? But if we would say so, then what about the period when microorganisms were not known? They were real at the time, of course, even though they were not acknowledged. And what about our sky? Does it look like this? Or like this? Perhaps like this? Or this? It turns out that all of these are real pictures of the exact same region of the sky, but the cameras used to take them captured different wavelengths of the electromagnetic spectrum. But would a non-informed person consider this our real sky? I'd say most probably not. So we see that defining reality is not so easy.
And that is one of the best points that could be made. And I was making that, as like I said a moment ago, with perception, is that it is really hard to define reality. And as the Mandela Effect community knows, because we've tried more than once to put a definition on reality, and it does most of the time, the conversation ends with the conversation of perception, right? It's how we perceive reality that is real. And it's only real to each one of us, right? As we perceive it through our senses. Okay, fair enough. And I was speaking a lot with Nachiketa about this. We've talked a lot about this. And he agrees with me, or I agree with him, I should say, that the definitions are very, very important, and defining reality is one of the hardest definitions we've had to try to come up with. And I'm not sure, aside from, again, perception being the individual, that we've really managed to define it either. It's really a philosophical, science, paranormal, supernatural question, isn't it? What is reality?
My own understanding of reality happened to be challenged when I was very young, and that one experience made me become a researcher of paranormal phenomena and non-ordinary reality. But I must say that is somehow a challenge for me, because as a researcher, I see how complex it is to explain this sort of phenomena, and even more complex it is to find concrete evidences. But as a person, I cannot deny the experiences that I had.
And whether it be UFOs or Mandela Effect or ghosts, or in this case, out-of-body experiences, you cannot deny an experience once you've had it. Once you know, you cannot unknow. The Allegory of the Cave by Plato comes to mind. If you don't know what that is, check that out. Definitely look into that. That is a very incredible tale and story of Allegory. But the idea that knowledge has a two-sided sword to it, doesn't it? Because once you know something, like I said, you cannot unknow it. You can pretend that it doesn't exist, but that doesn't stop the fact that you still know that it does, especially when it's a conscious experience. When you experience something, that's when you become adamant about knowing that it does exist regardless of what anyone else says. So to you, that's reality, right?
So that's a kind of a dilemma. And I deal with it thinking, this is something that needs further study, and I try to contribute on this. My experience happened when I was very young, about 7 or 8 years old. An uncle and aunt of mine went to a trip to São Paulo, a big city I had only heard about at that time.
That's a very important part of the case file to note. She had only heard of it at the time. She had never actually ever been to São Paulo.
But a few nights later, during the night, during my sleep, I felt myself floating upwards. And somehow, I ended up in São Paulo.
To reiterate, a city in which she had never been in before.
And in a room where my uncle was lying in bed, and I saw he had some little tubes inserted into his nostrils and a bag with a liquid that would be inserted into his arms. And I also saw something even stranger, that he had a thin, clear tube that was connected to his abdomen, as far as I could tell, to a glass jar that was placed on the floor, which would hold a slightly reddish liquid.
Now, those are some really specific details, are they not? And, you know, one can say, well, she was just dreaming it. That's going to be the argument the most scientism, dogmatic scientist would put forth. However,
that blew my mind. I didn't have a clue what that was, because I am from a very small town in Brazil, which you can see here. This is the whole town, as compared to the little part of São Paulo you saw before. But wonderful people there, but at that time, almost 50 years ago, well, we had no bookstores, no libraries, no movie theaters, of course, no universities, but I must say I had a very happy childhood because I grew up with 6 siblings, always playing around, but we had no illnesses in the family. And we didn't have either money enough to have a TV in our house or to buy books. So I had never seen anything like that before.
So all of the supposed influences that would have influenced her to know what Sao Paulo would have looked like did not exist. They couldn't afford TV. They didn't have books. She had no way of previously knowing what Sao Paulo was like.
When they came back from their trip, I just said to my aunt, hey, I saw Uncle Gino lying in such and such room, and I described what I had seen. She was baffled, just changed subject. But later that day, I overheard her telling my mother, how on earth could Nancy have known that if not even you or anyone else knew he was going for a bladder surgery, because we didn't tell anybody, we didn't want you to worry about it.
What she described was the bladder surgery in process, and there's no way that she would have had any knowledge. Her parents didn't even have knowledge. Nobody knew that this was going on until after the fact. At least nobody was supposed to know. However, she was able to actually see it at the time it was happening. She was literally in the room, in the city. At least her consciousness was at the time that it occurred.
So that experience, as well as others I have had, compelled me to seek further studies in this. And I found out that this experience was called an O.B.E, or out-of-body experience, which is a phenomenon, as according to the current model, in which the consciousness moves away from the human body, being able to experience a reality that is subtler than this ordinary one.
Which once again would prove, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, of course, that the consciousness does not exist only in the brain, but exists outside of the body. Now, can the brain project? Possibly, and we'll get to that in a minute, but consciousness itself is more than just the brain, and it's case files like these that make you question what consciousness really is.
So in my search for serious studies, I found that science was, maybe still is, I'm afraid, far from understanding or even acknowledging a reality that is beyond the boundaries of this standard material world.
The materialist worldview, like we learned last week, or the dogmatic scientism worldview, opposed to the actual science. But when dogmatic scientism steps in and does things like this, it halts real science from asking real questions.
So I thought, how are meaningful experiences, such as mine, examined? And I decided that one day I would join the small group of individuals who were dedicated to studying it. Among the body of works that I researched, the one that I found to be among the more scientific at the time was that of Robert Krukel, because he compiled thousands of O.B.E accounts in order to compare them and see if there were common elements. And he concluded that these experiences are not a result of beliefs of any kind and are independent from cultural aspects.
To put that another way, it doesn't matter what your religion is, it doesn't matter what cultural background you come from, or what belief systems are installed there. The O.B.E is reported across all of them. People in every category have reported having an out-of-body experience.
Well, we must say that interpretation of the experience, yes, that is influenced by one's beliefs, or maybe because unavoidably most individuals would interpret their experiences according to their belief system. But this is where current research on O.B.Es and maybe expanded states of consciousness comes into play, because it may help reveal which elements make an experience reliable. And I'd say that education on the topic could also reduce this degree of subjectivity in the interpretation of the experience.
Which is exactly what I hope to accomplish here tonight, is education on the experience, or on what is happening to people more so than the experience itself. But letting people know that this is out there, it is real, and we need more people to look into things like this, because the question of consciousness is far from answered, especially when it comes to the question of out-of-body experiences.
There had been a number of surveys and laboratory experiments in controlled conditions to investigate the O.B.E. I have also conducted several of them with results published, interesting results, but no conclusive evidences yet. I would love to share them here with you, but we don't have time. But perhaps I can at least share with you what are some of the common sensations that one would experience when in partial or complete separation to the body.
And what I really find intriguing is what she's about to describe comes in pretty much every case file on O.B.Es that I've ever read.
I myself experienced many of these sensations since I was very young. For example, I vividly remember moments when I was relaxed, just lying in bed, and I would feel a very strong vibration inside my body, unusual, powerful, as if all my cells were connected to some sort of electricity or being activated by a live energy. And I came to learn later that this vibrating sensation is referred to as vibrational state, and it's quite common among those who have had O.B.Es.
And like I said, I've never had an O.B.E before, so I really cannot relate to this, but I know what it's like to have anxiety and be anxious about something, and everything inside of you is absolute jello. The first couple times, well, quite a few times, that I had to give a public spoken talk, I was probably, I guess, pretty good according to people on the podium, but inside, I was nothing but a ball of jelly. My nerves were going insane. I had the worst shakes inside, and how it didn't translate to the outside, I have no idea. Of course, I've gotten better about public speaking over the years. Clearly, I have a radio show and do YouTube. I have no issues public speaking now. However, at times, I did have that issue, so that's the only thing I could really, I guess, think to compare what that would be like, that vibrational state, is that jelly inside feeling of just all your nerves rattling at the same time. I guess that's probably the closest that I've ever come to experiencing that. But this is relevant across all case files of O.B.E that I've pretty much read.
In many instances also, I would see my body, but like from a third-person vantage point. And especially when I was a kid, in a childlike manner of thinking, I would wonder, how can I be sleeping if I am awake? Because that was totally different state from a dream. But I didn't know that was an O.B.E, of course.
And I know a lot of you are going to say, yeah, that sounds more like an NDE, or what happens during a near-death experience, and you're absolutely right. There are both those NDEs and O.B.Es. Experiencers do report having that literal out-of-body experience. And we'll go more into that tomorrow night with the near-death experiences and how it does relate directly to this topic.
Common sensations also are that of floating, swaying, sometimes falling, jerk awake. But a stranger sensation that I have had many times was that of feeling I couldn't move my body, as if I were paralyzed. Well, I wouldn't call that exactly pleasant.
What some would call a sleep paralysis. And of course, sleep paralysis is described as the body not fully waking up, just half waking up, and you feel like you're stuck in your body, right? I don't 100% buy that either, unless it has to do with the consciousness not quite making it back to the body quick enough. We can speculate for days, but I don't want to speculate. It's just know that I disagree with the whole explanation of sleep paralysis. I think there's a lot more going on there, because we see this across a number of different paranormal topics, from abductions and UFOs to demonology, and even into out of body experiences.
Especially when you do not know what it is. But I came to learn later that this is a natural sensation that is part of the first stages of detaching from the body or returning to it. These are just some examples, but I must say that fear of these sensations may hinder the O.B.E occurrence.
Because, of course, if you're scared or feel any kind of fear, you're going to automatically try to jump back into what you know, or wake up, if you will, or disbelieve what's going on instead of going with the experience.
I would like to say that all my out-of-body adventures were very enjoyable. However, sometimes in my regular waking state, I would sense some sort of subtle energies or invisible presences around me that made me scared as a child. So this led me to research or study sensitive kids to find out why they experience this type of phenomenon, how they interpret them, what sort of consequences they would face both during childhood or later in adult life because of this, and how parents and society normally react to their sensitivity. But I must say that it's obvious, not only kids have out-of-body experiences, as adults we can have them too. This is a natural phenomenon, a phenomenon that can be, it seems, arguably learned and developed.
And I 100% agree that this is an absolutely natural phenomenon of conscious. And from what I believe about consciousness, I would expect nothing less than the ability to go out of the body.
So it's not only special people who can have it. But the problem here is, how do we go about studying this type of phenomena with true scientific spirit?
And that is the most important question of the night, in my opinion. I don't know about you guys, but the most important question in this topic is, when are we going and how are we going to go about actually putting a scientific study to this that has been overdue for a long time. This is more than just a materialist issue. This is why materialism is quickly failing in physics every day. It is being more and more realized that there's a second world that exists, a world of the soul, as Descartes had at least acknowledged in the beginning that there were two separate worlds, a spirit and a material.
To start with, we must stop just dismissing the phenomena or saying there's something wrong with the person because these are not conventional perceptions. And we must acknowledge that there may be facts about human manifestation that we don't know or understand. And we must search for explanations with no presumptions or preconceived ideas.
That is 100,000% the most important part of doing a real serious scientific study on this, is to go into it with an absolute open mind and zero preconceptions. What we find is what we find, and that's what we find, period. Not expecting to find one way or the other. That's how we're going to seriously, unbiasedly look at this topic and figure out exactly what's going on and how consciousness works from that aspect.
So far, most of the academic research has been dedicated to the study of the so-called physical world, which is of essential importance, of course, and must be the first step. However, if we even consider the possibility of the existence of a reality that is subtler than this one, but just as real, even though it may escape our regular senses, we must find ways to research it. If O.B.E allows the direct observation of it, then maybe until proper technology is developed, O.B.Es are the natural tools because they would allow researchers to witness this reality and verify its possible interaction with ours.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that just right. Especially my Mandela effect people, I know your ears just really perked up because I know mine did. She said multiple realities. That's right. The idea that the spirit and the physical are literally in two different realities. That is Descartes' idea, you remember, the spirit world and the physical world. And we hear about the spirit world all the time, especially in paranormal studies. That's a major part of the paranormal studies. But the idea that in an O.B.E, that these experiencers are literally experiencing the parallel dimension, the spirit realm or spirit reality or spirit dimension, or fill in your word on the last part, but literally another reality, if you will, that exists right beside ours.
If we were ever to get to this point, let's imagine we could have this type of research. What sort of consequences that would bring to science? Well, this knowledge could bring very useful insights into many different domains of scientific research, from medicine to physics.
And especially the world of quantum mechanics and quantum physics.
In turn, this could promote a scientific view that would acknowledge us as our individuality, as individuals, as consciousnesses that exist beyond the brain, which would encourage the integration of variables and factors that are not strictly physical into the scientific process.
So they would have to come up with all new algorithms, for lack of a better term, to describe reality. They'd have to come up with new formulas, is the word that I was actually looking for. There we go. To describe reality. And they would have to include the spirit, which is going to be really odd for science because they're really not good at stuff like that. But that aside, if they took it to a real scientific, rigorous study and found that it was true and that consciousness really does reside outside of the body as another factor of the body, then there would be a lot changed. What kind of innovations do you think that would cause across the board, right? Let's take, for instance,
medicine. Medicine could benefit from learning or identifying when these more subtle elements could be interfering with patients' health, or maybe inexplicably curing them.
Could you imagine that? Consciousness therapies that could actually cure somebody just using the idea of the spirit mixed into the rest of the realm of medicine and science? You'd be treating things without drugs, wouldn't you? It would be a whole different treatment. Bongo drums and the whole nine, right? I know you guys think a lot of that sounds new agey, but is it really?
Physics. Physics could examine phenomena and their outcome, taking matter and energy into consideration from a multidimensional perspective.
As well as having a actually viable explanation to the double slit experiment, which right now, even though some physicists or quantum physicists swear they have it figured out, it's still highly in debate as to why the outcomes differ upon the difference of consciousness observing the experiment or consciousness not observing the experiment.
But we face three big challenges, at least three.
And three challenges so big that they're going to have to wait till the second half of the show, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, we've got to go ahead and take a network break right here. The time has got us, and we will be right back for the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show right after these messages. Don't you touch that dial.
This is My Life DIY, and
hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
The Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
That howl means the weekend has begun. Give yourselves a round of applause for being smart enough to be here. Hi, everyone. It's AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. I loved the way that Jerry decided to end and cut to the break. Oh, my goodness. How cool is that? Everyone from Cynthia Sue Larson to My Life, Propagate This Light. I believe JoJo's was in the shout-out lineup. Really cool. Very cool. If you'd like to send us your shout-out, you can do so by visiting riponrabbithole.com. That's RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. On the bottom of every page, next to the Freedom Flame, is the ability to send us a shout out, and we'd like to hear from you. If you're not in this broadcast live and you're listening on demand, you can do this too. Head on over, record your 30-second message, and send us your shout-outs. We'll play them live on air. If you're enjoying Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den exploration of out-of-body experiences, or O.B.Es, and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. Here's a look at the weekend ahead. Jerry will return tomorrow night, Thursday, January 14th, for a look at NDE, Near-Death Experience. I can't wait for that. And then Friday night, the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show will take you through the rabbit hole of bullying. One of those walk on eggshell episodes you won't want to miss. Please be here so I don't get bullied off air. And if you've been to the riponrabbithole.com lately and you've seen our featured story, hey, you're lucky enough to be here, really. And then Saturday night, I can't wait, the Wide Awakes. And you might have seen this and said, what the heck is this? This was an 1860s political party known as the Wide Awakes. We're going to dive down the rabbit hole of them, including the Ripon Wide Awakes, and then we'll end out the weekend right together with a look at Rumspringa. Amish Rite of Passage. That's Sunday night, January 17th, 2021. Be here or be square. It's going to be a fun time as we explore the rabbit hole of Rumspringa. We return back to Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den right here on the very best of Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den show for Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are talking about out-of-body experiences, but before we get back into the topic, I would like to talk to you guys real quick about something. Ladies and gentlemen, our freedoms are on the line right now. Our freedom of speech, our freedom of decision, our freedom as being Americans. And we should all be worried about this. And I'm especially worried about being able to lose my voice on the interwebs, at least the places like YouTube. And ladies and gentlemen, if anything happens and we disappear off of YouTube, you can always find myself and AJ the Ripon Rabbit over at the riponrabbithole.com. That is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. That's right. Over there we've got the live 24/7 radio player. You can always find us when we are going live. Also, ladies and gentlemen, with social media having the issues that it's had over the last couple weeks, or couple days, let's be honest here, we have a social media alternative over there called Down the Rabbit Hole. Do make sure you come over and check that out if you are interested in free speech and discussion, and freedom is something that that you support, then come help support the RiponRabbitHole.com, ladies and gentlemen. Ripon, Wisconsin, the home and birthplace of the Republican Party, the home of freedom flame, ladies and gentlemen. And let us keep the freedom flame burning, because it is getting very, very low, ladies and gentlemen. We need every last one of your support, and we really, really would love to see you over at the RiponRabbitHole.com. Once again, that is RiponRabbitHole.com. We're not trying to sell you nothing but free information. How do you like that? Ladies and gentlemen, with that said, I've got a burning desire to find out from our speaker earlier, who was talking about a real scientific look into the consciousness aspect of out-of-body experiences. And she was explaining the 3 issues that we're going to run into while trying to give this a rigorous study. Ladies and gentlemen, our presenter tonight, Miss Nancy Trivelato.
In all of these, first, how can we separate those who only dream, fantasize, imagine, or maybe have brain characteristics that gives them perception that they consider to be non-physical, from those who have real experiences with lucidity, awareness, clarity of thought, and detachment from preconceived notions or beliefs?
Wow, there is so much to unpack here. As a conspiracy researcher and paranormal researcher myself for almost 30 years, I can definitely tell you that there comes a point where you have to draw a hard line on the evidence and decide, what do I believe and what do I not? And still within most paranormal communities, that's where the argument lies most of the time, is what one researcher believes over the other. Secondly, to finish the point that she was making, when you do something like this, you must go into this with no preconceived ideas or intentions. You must go in with an unbiased attitude, willing to accept whatever outcome may appear. And that is true science, opposed to scientism telling you this is what you're going to get, this is what you expect, and that's that. And trying to find only ways to prove against the idea instead of trying to unbiasedly look at it and give it a fair shot.
Well, probably what we need here is to identify what elements separate real, non-ordinary experiences from fantasy or brain creation. But without acknowledging the phenomenon, not even that first step scientists can take.
And that's the really sad part, because we can't even get to the part where we can, try to classify what's real and what's not scientifically, because science refuses to give it a fair shake, to really give it a real unbiased study. Because as far as they're concerned, it's just the actions of accidental brain activity. And of course, none of us can believe that for even a second.
Second, we also need to learn how to separate or distinguish serious scientific initiatives from unsubstantiated information, or worse, I must say.
Which is another horrible problem about giving something like this a real scientific exploration, is the fact that if you don't follow their narrative and, not look into this, then you won't have grant money to continue working on whatever it is you're working on. Otherwise, you'd better follow their version of truth if you want to continue to do science. This is how scientism has taken over science, and academia has been controlling the narrative for a very long time. Does that mean it's right? Oh no. Remember, the one that screams the truth is the lie. The one that screams the loudest is not always the truth. The truth remains hidden until found, until light is shined upon it.
Because unfortunately, there are individuals or groups that altogether disregard the basic scientific principles or the scientific knowledge when studying the so-called non-physical phenomena.
Groups that we call dogmatic scientists, or once again, the ones that control the flow of the money, which controls the narrative.
This is not good, because besides not furthering scientific progress at all, This may give the impression that all of those who dedicate themselves to study this non-ordinary phenomenal reality have the same attitude.
In other words, it gives the impression that there's only one thing going on, and how dare you question anything else, when in reality we should question everything we don't trust. That is our right. That is our freedom to do as human beings.
This is not the case, I can assure you. And we also need to develop appropriate methodology to investigate this intangible reality and its related phenomena.
And a good methodology to studying these things will be a great first step into defining and understanding exactly what is going on and solving one of the many mysteries of consciousness. But as long as dogmatic science is allowed to reign, that will never happen.
But the thing is, at this point, we could wonder, but why bother? Why bother at all to study them? If science is about understanding ourselves and the universe, or pursuing knowledge of the natural world, then verifying this reality could enlighten us about what we and the world actually are. And in turn, this could maybe change the core paradigm upon which our society and knowledge are based.
A free expression of knowledge and a free expression of science is exactly what we need in this day and age. The paradigm has gotten out of hand, and it does need to be changed. At least the scientific paradigm, if nothing else.
But it's interesting to remember that O.B.Es are not only a tool for gathering scientific observation, it's also a tool for personal exploration. What would be some of the personal uses of O.B.Es? What would you say?
So there's the old question, if you could choose any superpower, what would it be, right? So I got a new version of that question. If you could go anywhere for an O.B.E., if you could just leave your body and go anywhere and do anything, what would it be? Would you go to a beach? Or what if you had this ability to do it commonly every day? It was a regular thing, wasn't something special. Then how would you use it, right? Would you sneak around and walk around and listen to people's thoughts and ideas and things like that? Would you use it to explore reality on different levels? How would you use an O.B.E.? What would you do if you were able to just anytime you wanted go out of body? Where would you go?
Checking up on the spouse or spying on the neighbor. Not quiet. At least was not for me.
Though, like she said, it wasn't the experience for her. If you could go anywhere and do anything, would you go spy on your spouse, right? Make sure they're being faithful. Would you go spy on your neighbor, see if you could get some gossip? Go ahead and put a 1 in the chat room if you'd be the person going around spying on everybody, see what you could find out. Go ahead and put a 2 in the chat room if you wouldn't do that, you wouldn't spy on people. And go ahead and put a 3 if you're really not sure how you would use that ability, if that would be quite a tempting idea. Personally, I ain't gonna lie, I'm a nosy little dude. I'd be walking around everywhere I could trying to find out what people are doing. Mainly people in high places, when it comes to ufology and paranormal things. I would explore the paranormal as deeply as I could. So I'd definitely be a 1 there. But ladies and gentlemen, nevertheless, what was the overall feeling about what happened to Nancy Trivelato?
In my case, maybe I share with you how I feel it about my case. In my case, I feel that I have a better sense of what to be in this world is about. Somehow I feel that I follow my own personal principles. I don't need an external or imposed set of beliefs to guide me. And my principles are a result of conclusions and observations that I have made also during these experiences.
Trust your experiences. Trust what you know. No matter who or what questions it or tells you you're crazy or wrong, if it's what you know and experience, trust it and believe it and know that it's true, no matter what anybody tries to tell you. And that's one thing that, me and the flat earthers disagree on some points, but they do speak what they believe is experience, what they believe is their truth. And I will always stand for the right to do at least that, to speak your truth. Whether I agree with it or not, I will always believe to speak in your own experience and truth as you know it to be, and never let anyone tell you that you are crazy for believing something. Remember, the ones that we consider geniuses today were the madmen of yesteryear.
The first conclusion, I guess, logical one, natural one, is we are not only this body. This idea may refer us or make us think about to the hypothesis that we do not cease to exist at the point of death. But please understand, I'm not saying this so you take this to be your truth.
Wow, I really like this woman. She is truly speaking from an open-minded scientific point of view. And I love that she says, don't take this to be your truth. Just because she believes there's another side, don't take that to be your truth until you have experienced it, or you have looked into it, or researched it. I've researched it for a long time, though I've never had an out-of-body experience. I believe it to be absolute truth.
I'm just saying what is my relative truth at this moment and how I deal with this reality or what I think about it. Also, although this tends to give us a sense of tranquility and peace of mind, at the same time, it kind of gives us an urge or desire to take meaningful steps in our lives so that when we finish this life, at the end of it, we look back and we feel that we have accomplished the greater goal that we had always had.
Like a job when we get finished and we look back with pride at what a good job, a job well done we've done. And I'd like to think when we look back on our lives, after we are released of the locks of this body, that we can look back on our lives with the same kind of pride and say, wow, my work was done, right? At least we can all do our best every day to facilitate the work that we believe and we have truth in and we trust in, right? That is our right and our freedom.
I also observed that there is some sort of maybe multidimensional energies that interconnect us all. This notion tends to make us think about the consequences of our actions and eventually leads to the realization that being ethical really matters.
What a profound statement that really is. And we've said it for a long time, us researchers, and I'm sure a lot of you in the chat out there and listening worldwide have said to yourself quite a bit. It really, really feels like we're connected at some level. And I've believed for a long, long time that every human at some very, very, very simple basic level is interconnected, and multidimensional or spiritual realms interconnecting them would make a lot more sense. I really like that idea. Because like we've seen many times, and I've used this 100 times, Newton and some other guy whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head, all the way across the other side of the world, invented calculus at the exact same time. Ladies and gentlemen, that's calculus. That's not simple algebraic equations. That is the hardest math ever. Math that defines the movement of spatial objects and things of that nature. Calculus is an extremely hard math, and these two guys independently came up with it at the exact same time. We've also heard of the 100th monkey experiment, and I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it basically was a large group of macaque monkeys who had sweet potatoes that were in the sand, and they didn't like the sand, so they took them into the water and they washed them off, and then they started eating them. Well, more and more monkeys on the same island started doing it till it got to the point that this was transmitted across the entire breed of macaque monkeys across the entire world. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we've also got cases of twin telepathy like we spoke of earlier, and there's so many cases of different things like that. We know about the social tipping point, right? After 10% of society picks something up, there's a social tipping point. Could that also be another way of expressing the 100th monkey?
These are not only my conclusions, because research on O.B.E and near-death experiences points to the same results.
And there are so many likenesses between near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences, is the reason that tomorrow night we will be doing that very topic, ladies and gentlemen. We will be doing near-death experiences tomorrow night to follow up the out-of-body experience talk this evening.
But what would be the social implications if we had a society in which the majority of the individuals would know about this, but know for a fact, based on their experiences, not just following a set of rules?
And I have to stop right there and touch on that point. I love how fired up she is, but I have to stop on this point real quick and do the research for yourself, not based on a set of rules. What would society be like if everybody realized that these things are real and can happen and actually could learn to do them? How would society itself change? Especially if people quit listening to the rules given to them by talking heads on a lying television set controlled by arms of political sides that have no business controlling media, since our mass media is gone. People that actually stop listening to these things and actually look into things for themselves and research everything. Research what I say. Question what I say. Question what the news says. Questions what everybody says. And then you'll find truth. And I do hope that I hold up to your sniff test, because I've done nothing in my life but try to keep truth alive every step of the way. And these truths is what we gain from experience. And when you experience something like an out-of-body experience or a UFO or a Mandela effect, it really doesn't matter the cause. When you have the experience, then that's more of a truth than you could ever know. And once again, what if these truths, these enlightened truths, were unleashed upon society? How would the world change for the better, one would hope?
Note that the world is not purely physical. What would this imply? If we just conclude from what we discussed, probably they would polish their personal principles, mind the lasting effects or consequences of their actions, forming a society with greater humanitarian and planetary concerns.
Which would be an amazing thing if done correctly, and not by corruption, but people that are truly willing to look into things without having a dogmatic narrative shoved into it, to open-mindedly, unbiasedly know things, for truth to reign supreme instead of hiding in the dark under the louder lie.
Where goals would be more than only becoming wealthier, maybe more about altruism. And while I have a few seconds left, let me propose that we let our minds run free for a moment and conjecture.
All right, guys, you ready to have some fun? It's time to do a little bit of speculating. Let's let our minds run free, just be open-minded, unbiased, and consider a possibility that sounds pretty amazing in my opinion.
Would we one day evolve from Homo sapiens to Homo projections? Meaning we would become individuals who would, or beings, who would naturally project outside of our bodies, having also some sort of multidimensional awareness. Well, that's an intriguing thought, at least. Thank you for your attention.
An intriguing thought indeed, and to carry the thought even further, what's to say that there's civilizations out there that already haven't done this very thing, especially if it is a natural, evolutionary from where we're at least spiritually and mentally speaking. And it's, again, a great speculation, a beautiful idea, and I would love for that to be true. And thank you, Miss Nancy Trevelato, for your sharing tonight with your O.B.E. and how has it affected your life, and how we could go about learning real scientific evidences from this, ladies and gentlemen. But what do you think? Do you think that this is a real thing? Do you think consciousness really can go outside of the body, and it could actually be learned, according to her, and can go and do things that you wouldn't consider normally science-based things to do? Or do you think this is all in your head? It's all made up. You're just dreaming and fantasizing and happen to get some things right. I personally think that it's very real, and there's a lot of mysteries of consciousness that we haven't figured out, like the near-death experience that we'll continue this conversation with tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen. But in the end, you be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. If you enjoyed tonight's topic of out-of-body experiences, make sure you definitely tune in tomorrow night for the continuation of the discussion as we go into near-death experiences. This is definitely a show you don't want to miss if you've enjoyed the discussion on consciousness that we've had so far. And then, ladies and gentlemen, on Friday, we got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you really enjoyed the conversation so far on consciousness, and the conversation especially on the out-of-body experience, then you definitely want to tune in tomorrow night as we cover the near-death experience. This is so intertwined and closely related to the O.B.E. that I really had a hard time separating the audio files between the two as far as getting something that didn't include the other. It's really going to be an incredible episode, and I cannot wait to present the information to you guys tomorrow night, January 14th, 2021. Then on Friday, January 15th, 2021, our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit will be back with a Ripon Rabbit Hole live show. That's right, the Animals Radio know how to party. And on Friday, he's going to be covering an incredibly special topic. You guys do not want to miss this. I know I say that a lot, but this is incredibly important. Of course, the topic will be bullying. This is something that is becoming a problem in the world, and we need to learn about it. So this special episode will be, again, Friday, January 15th, 2021, with AJ the Ripon Rabbit and the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show, and that will return also on Saturday, January 16th, 2021, where AJ will be discussing being wide awake. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Are you awake and aware of the reality going on around you? Are your eyes open? Remember, I always do say stay awake, but dare to dream. Make sure you are wide awake for that episode on Saturday, January 16th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. All shows here on the network start at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, including his show on Sunday. That's right, AJ the Ripon Rabbit will be back to close out the weekend on Sunday, January 17th, 2021, with an all-new episode about Rum Springs. That's right. What is Rum Springs? Well, you're just going to have to tune in Sunday for this one. I really don't know what to say. Anything I say will give too much away, so make sure you tune in for that episode, and we're just going to leave that mystery topic to be, because I even can't wait myself to find out what he's going to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, he's going to round out the weekend with incredibly special episodes, important episodes, and episodes that you do not want to miss. That's right. Speaking of not wanting to miss, ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to miss your opportunity to go over to the riponrabbithole.com. That is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. That's right. Over there, you're going to find a lot of really amazing stuff. You're going to find a news feed that is updated constantly with breaking news at all times. You're going to find the Dark Wolf's Den Show topic group over there, and you're also going to be able to go down the rabbit hole if you sign up for a Backstage Pass. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, down the rabbit hole. That is where the conversation continues 24/7 for the rabbits. And if you are a freedom-loving person or just want to express your free thought, we would love to have you over at the riponrabbithole.com and drop down the rabbit hole with us and discuss the topics at hand, the topics that are relevant to what's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, we would love to hear from you over there. We would love to see you over there. We are truly a freedom-loving, open platform for debate and conversation and free thought, ladies and gentlemen. That is becoming very rare in this world, and we have an alternative if you're looking for something low-key that you can come hang out with us and enjoy free open speech. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, free speech on our platform. That's right, that is the riponrabbithole.com. Once again, that is riponrabbithole.com. That's right. Also, while you're over there, make sure you come into the free speech welcomed open VIP chat room. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 24/7 Backstage Lounge. If you sign up for the VIP pass, you will be able to come on in and enjoy the conversation with us. The VIP Backstage Pass, I should say. And it is absolutely free. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Free speech, free hanging out, free chat room, free fun. That's right. Come on over and hang out with us right after the show. We'll all be over there here in just a couple minutes, and we would love to see you there. The conversation continues at the riponrabbithole.com. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, that is riponrabbithole.com. Last but not least, you can sign up for our newsletter. We send out every Wednesday, once a week only. We do not spam your email box. We do not sell your information. We are true freedom-loving, honest people over here who are only trying to do our part. And ladies and gentlemen, with that said, it has been an honor and a pleasure to be able to speak with you this evening, and I look forward to speaking with you again very, very soon. As a matter of fact, tomorrow night. So on behalf of Walt House, Chick Mandela Effect, Michael Musco, AJ the Ripon Rabbit, everybody over at Ripon Common Sense Radio, and everybody in Ripon, Wisconsin, and all the 26 countries around the world, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And remember, until tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, stay awake, but dare, I say dare, to dream. Good night, everybody. How yeah.
Unlocked and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner, is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner, is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.